We all know that living in the core of the city costs more than living further away. But why the land prices and labor market are connected with a master plan? Or is it possible that the master plan engineers make people to live and work according to their plan? The plan may be a disaster, even when a lot of money and time is invested, but not carefully considered all important aspects. Engineering designs usually leave the market forces linking land prices and densities out. Theoretical and empirical principles of standard urban model is the key, but often violated. City of Hanoi, Vietnam is one of the unlucky examples. Here is the map of Hanoi in 2010 on the left, and the plan for 20 years later in 2030 on the right side. Population, use of land, and infrastructural needs for 2030 were considered in the awarded master plan. Not once the important words markets or land prices were mentioned though. Yet Vietnam has taken the steps toward a market economy. Real estate market development has been impressive and fast from low to high income houses, commercial sites, and towers. Now let's look at the master plan spatial concept. On the right hand side, the green area is so-called agricultural belt. About 16 kilometers wide, splitting the population of Hanoi into two parts. The core city here, the black area including Hanoi Central Business District, and high-density satellite towns on red. The whole metropolitan area is even 70 kilometers wide. In the agricultural belt, 3 E's are on the map are eco township villages of 60,000 people each. Only agricultural industries would be allowed in them. Highways or parkways and railways are the yellow lines connecting satellite towns to the core city. The agricultural belt is marked on green on the map at right. Satellite towns are the red areas. So there is also a river called Red River dividing the city. The land use in 2010 marked as tiny black dots on the left map shows the agricultural belt area, including many villages that already took about a quarter of the area, which back then was accommodating already 2 million inhabitants. The authors of the master plan expected the population already in the agricultural area, this agricultural belt, to stay and continue the farming. There were 3 reasons to prevent Hanoi's expansion into the rice paddies on the green belt. First, to save on energy on transporting the rice only short distance to Hanoi. Also, the important green area, recreational area, would be close to the core city. Third, existing rice paddies had a tendency for flooding and so is expensive to develop. Still, there was no calculations to prove this. Just the opposite, as you will see, the costs will be high to stop agricultural belt to develop. Splitting the city will keep residents apart, making it hard and costing labor's and real estate's point of view. It's likely that city growth will be different from the plan, though the infrastructure had already been built in the planned area. It's common that the money is wasted for unsettled area. It's crucial that the master plan spatial concept follows the labor market functions. 9 million people will inhabit in the Hanoi metropolitan area in 2030. A third of them will remain rural, just because they happen to live in the area zoned as an agricultural belt, the green area on the right map. And still those people live closer to the city than people in satellite towns. Motorcycle is the most commonly used vehicle in Hanoi. Many of these villages are already about 40 minutes or less by motorcycle from the center of Hanoi. With the new highways, the time will become even shorter. Cultivating rice in Hanoi's agricultural belt is likely to have wages in comparison to cheaper parts in Vietnam. Higher wages would lead to higher prices of rice, and so the planned lower cost of transportation would not compensate the higher cost of labor. It would then be likely that farmers decide to work in urban better paid employment. The distance and shorter than before commuting time to city would help farmers to work in the city over the people in satellite towns further away. It seems that in 2030 there is not enough workers for rice paddy fields as a negative result of this master plan leading workers to better paying jobs in the city. As mentioned before, master plans made against the labor market functions will not be successful. When the new roads will be built, the commute gets shorter and more affordable, and real estate prices and rents in the villages get closer to the ones in the urban area. Urban area spreads outwards from city center, accommodating urban families and also urban workers. In the standard urban model, the land price and population density are highest in the center of the city, getting gradually lower the further you go. Agricultural land close to the city will soon have higher urban value instead of agricultural value. But on the other hand, this land is for agricultural use only and therefore lower value than the satellite towns. And this would cause inequity and problems among owners and local government. The design master plan for Hanoi will cause very different distribution of land and inhabitants in 2030 than the plan suggests. Population will densify in the eastern part of the agricultural belt. Agricultural area will face problems of missing sewer and drainage system. Eventually, this system must be built, but will be a lot costlier afterwards. The lack of well-designed recreation areas will be another problem in the master plan. Would any social benefit result in the government could enforce the spatial distribution of population prescribed by the master plan? Eventually, distribution of densities and land prices will base on the demand for land needed by households and firms, as predicted by the standard urban model. And the agricultural belt covers 870 square kilometers, an area slightly larger than the 800 square kilometers planned for the total build-up area in Hanoi in 2030. In other words, the agricultural area is larger than the total area planned for build-up. The land prices will go up. Very dense core city would be even more dense, especially hurting the poor. The agricultural belt in Hanoi's plan, from 20 to 30 kilometers wide, separates the core city from satellite towns. Many economists have shown a lot of commuting time and energy would have been saved if the standard urban model had been followed. It would be much cheaper to bring rice once a year after harvest from any location in Vietnam than to transport millions of people twice a day across Hanoi's metropolitan area. The rice paddies would be a poor recreational area and flooding majority of the time. The size is more than 300 New York Central Parks. A small line on top of right-hand map represents the New York Central Park size here. And in comparison to this green belt. Instead, there would be already is pleasant green areas easily accessible around the river and lakes of Hanoi. Land prices, rents, and commuting times should be mentioned and market mechanisms taken into account in the master's plan. I'm quoting Alan Burchard, who wrote, "Ignoring land prices when designing cities is like ignoring gravity when designing an airplane." Households with different preferences and incomes make different trade-offs. Some prefer reducing their land and floor space consumption in order to reduce commuting costs. Others prefer the other way around. Planners cannot be successful in distributing the population, deciding where and how people live. The standard urban model helps in understanding the basic changes of land prices and rents as income, transportation costs, and land supply. Decisions' impact on the land's market should be considered. Restricting the plot sizes, floor spaces, or number of dwelling units are hurting most the poorest. Knowing the reality of land prices and rents lead toward the feasible plans of infrastructure. Median income and median housing price should be followed in order to make housing affordable in the cities. Median house price should not exceed median annual income times 4. The responsible urban planners keep that in their mind.